Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast. Each week, your host, Casey Hasten, Director of Recruiting at VIP, will bring you valuable insights from thought leaders, introduce you to incredible companies, and bring you tips for landing your dream job from our team of executive recruiters at VIP. And now, Casey Hasten.
Welcome to the We Are VIP podcast, a podcast devoted to adding value to your career or candidate search, brought to you by VIP. I'm your host, Casey Hasten, Executive Recruiter, Director of Recruiting with VIP, and your all-around hiring guru. And today, I have brought you yet another little tasty treat. So let me get right to introducing our guest for today. I want to welcome Chris Allaire, CEO and founder at Verity, a team-based technology recruiting firm, I'm going to get this right, in New York City. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about what's going on there right now. And they focus on data science, data engineering, DevOps, application security engineering, and web engineering. As the leader of one of the top recruiting agencies in New York, Chris joins us to share his insight into the job market and some of the tips he has for hiring managers and for people looking for their next job. Chris, I am so excited you are here with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Looking forward to this.
This is so awesome. So I always like to start our show telling our guests how we met. And so, how did we meet?
Through the great networker, a gentleman named Adam Connors, who actually hosted me. I've known him for many years, and he hosted me on a podcast, talking about Verity and my philosophies and the way I do things. And naturally, you know him, and you heard the podcast out to him to introduce me to you, and I guess this was the start of history.
Exactly. It was so cool because Adam was so gracious, and you're right, he is the great networker, and I just absolutely adore the guy. But he said, go through my podcast, listen to him. Maybe that was just his way of getting me to listen to him, and see if there's any guests that you really like. And let me tell you, he had some top-notch guests on there, but I didn't feel like it was fair to ask for introductions to all of them. So I chose my 3 favorites, and you were one of them.
Well, I am honored. That's awesome to hear. Thank you.
And I listened to quite a few. So tell us a little bit about Verity, just real quick, and what you do, and then we'll kind of dig into the meat of our topics today.
So Verity is, like you said, it's a technology recruiting firm. We're based in New York City. Started the company a little over 6.5 years ago. I wanted to pioneer a change in the industry and do things in the recruiting business the way I really believe they should be done, and a little bit better. So, started with liquidated my 401k. Had a 6-month-old daughter at the time, who's now 7 years old, and talked to my wife and said, "Listen, I want to do this." And the real funny thing is, rather than getting even like a talking to, my wife looked at me and said, "I think it's about time."
Wow.
It was, yeah. She's supposed to be the voice of reason in the house, and rather than her trying to reason with me or, talk to me about risk and what to do with the family, etc., she's supposed to talk me off the cliff. She pushed me right off. She pushed
you.
She just gave me a feel. I was like, "Good, go do it." And I was like, "Wow, okay, that was happened." But so I had all in the world to really kind of do that, and then really got a chance to start on the dining room table and kind of grew from there, and really, hired some amazing people that work for me right now, and the company's, incredible. We've had no turnover in almost 3 years. Just doing well, staying together, and love the business that we're in. Tech is an exciting space to be in. So it's always innovative, that's for sure.
And we're going to dig into your hiring practices here in just a minute and I think that's amazing. I don't think I knew that you hadn't had any turnover in 3 years. And also,
yeah,
you just said so much. Kudos to your wife, number one, for supporting you, and kudos to you for jumping off without a safety net. I mean, when you liquidate your 401k to do something that you're passionate about, that's pretty impressive.
It was some daunting moments. to say the least. But I had a lot of belief in what I was doing. I really knew why I wanted to do this, and I really kind of followed it. So, but and again, it's nice when you have the backing and people that really support you, because it really helps things out. Really, sales go a little smoother when you don't have the arguments. That's for sure.
I could go off on a whole nother tangent on this about having the support, but I just want to kind of pull that up for people for just a second, because your significant other can have such an impact on the direction of your life, your career, everything. And so I think it's so important that you choose wisely, and it sounds like you did.
She is going to agree with you. And
Tell her I'm on team wife.
So am I. I'm a very fortunate, very lucky person, and I know that every single day. That's for sure. And I think it's critical. A lot of times we forget about that we have the support unit and the cast at home that are supporting everything we do, and especially in the recruiting. It's really easy to get caught up with something else and forget that people need to talk things over and make that educated decision the right way.
Absolutely. I know I've talked about this in the past, and I swear to God, I'm about to get to you. But this is not my first career. Is recruiting, right? And had I not had the support of a strong significant other to move from accounting to sales and recruiting, I would have never taken that leap of faith. And so it's just so important, and I'm so glad that you brought that to our attention today.
So I share it with everybody. Every time I share my story with the company, I want to make sure that people understand that that's where it came from, because I think that story is pretty important. So that was an important piece for really way I was able to do it and how I was able to be successful with it.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us and giving Team Wife credit today. So Chris, I want to talk to you a little bit about your philosophy as a recruiter. So your philosophy, and I'm pulling this from the website, people hire people, not buzzwords, acronyms, letters, and numbers. How did you come to this philosophy, and what does it mean to you?
I know it's weird to say, but honestly, it just kind of was like common sense. And I know common sense isn't always so common with people, but the experience I've had is I've never seen a resume get an offer. I've seen some of the people who are most qualified for the job get turned down for the job. I've seen people who are least qualified for the job get hired. And that's the biggest thing, is no matter what resumes say, we're still working with people. And I'm in the technology space. Technology is a tool to aid people, to improve performance. But the heart and soul of business is always going to be people. And that's never going to change. And 100% of the business really is the people bit. And, people have, in my opinion, there's 5 major impact points in someone's life. There's a marriage, there's a death, there's the birth of a child, there's buying a home, and there's changing a job. And we're in the middle of that business. And I think when you really think of it that way, you really understand that, what you're dealing with is you're dealing with people. And that's really what it comes down to on a day-to-day basis. So honestly, I think came up with it was just, I'm pretty sure someone told it to me a long time ago, and it stuck with me, and I firmly believe it.
And I love that you said, and I knew as soon as I heard you on the podcast, and then as soon as we had a conversation, I was like, oh my God, we are so much alike, because it is about the people, and it's not about the transactions, right? Our peoples have name, they have faces, not just dollar signs on their head. And that's what I'm really wanting to kind of transform the recruiting world, so that, we're not just getting people jobs, we're getting people the right jobs.
Absolutely. And I think and it's very, I've been in the business for a long time, probably like you, and I've seen a lot of people get caught up in the transactional side of the business. Mm-hmm. And I really try to stay level-headed and understand that, listen, the transactional side of the business is very important, don't get me wrong. But, the impact that you can make on somebody and the impact that you can make on a company is enormous. And, take that part of it. The rest of it will just kind of work itself out.
Absolutely. So let's talk about your company for a second. So Verity is has an extremely collaborative environment, right? How can company leaders utilize collaboration to find the right talent?
So I think first and foremost, you need to I understanding really what collaboration is, because really what collaboration is everyone working together to achieve one common goal. So in my opinion, I think the collaboration of leaders, in order to hire the right talent, they need to understand first and foremost the hiring landscape from both sides of the equation. And I think what happens a lot of times when they start to hire, they're really thinking about the qualifications that they need, and they forgot at one point in time that they were actually a candidate that was looking for a job. So they get caught up in these list of qualifications, and they're worried about someone checking A, B, C, and it's like 10 out of 10. All right, they're a match. And I think they need to remember that you're still interviewing people, and when they take that, things change. You need to communicate, collaborate, and you need to be realistic with what you're looking for. I think the other realistic, and when recruiting somebody, is understanding really how to sell the job properly. It's not just a screening out people; it's actually attracting people to work for you. So they really, that two-sided process. And the thing about recruiting, again, it's always makes me excited is that you're in the middle of two people, so you have two things that have an opinion. So when you understand that, I think you set yourself up to be more successful. So prior to the pandemic, I polled. I don't even know how many candidates. Ballpark about 75 to 80 people, and people that we had placed. And the success rate. So if companies were making offers on their own, they had a 36% acceptance rate, which means you go through all this work, you finally identify someone you want to make an offer to, you've got about a third of a chance of that person actually accepting the job. Now, the nice thing is with working with us, our acceptance rate was a little over 70. It was actually like 77%. And the reason why our percentages were so much higher is because we were focused really around what the candidates' wants were and why they were a good fit for the company, how they could grow there. And we were able just to really kind of sell them on the company and the job itself, less around qualifications. I think from a leadership standpoint, from collaboration, you need to understand why you're hiring somebody in the first place and really what the goal is you're trying to accomplish. You need to make sure that you're communicating around how your teams are currently made up, what the different personalities are that are on your teams, and making sure that the person that you're hiring is going to be a good fit and jive with the team. There's a lot of times, again, you start thinking about the skill set first, but you forget about the whole team mentality. And obviously, don't get me wrong, you need the skill set, but hiring the wrong person can be, comes in there and really rocks the boat. They can be detrimental to not only the product that you're really trying to build and launch, but the team itself. And I've seen numerous times where someone has come in, hired the wrong person, and next thing I know, the entire team is like, that's it, we're out of here. So I also think this is kind of long-winded, but the leaders need to not, from a collaboration standpoint, you can't generalize on the candidate. And what I mean by that is I've heard a lot of times, it's like, where the people are coming from, what companies they're coming out of that we like, and what companies are coming out of that we don't like. I think when you generalize like that, you're really eliminating a lot of very talented people. And you need to be really open-minded and make sure that you're talking to people to make sure that they're going to be a good fit. And then from the last point, from a collaboration standpoint, that's really what it is. Again, you need to have everybody on the same page. And I think we've all seen this, is what happens is, one person is looking for one thing. Another person is looking for something completely different. And there's no communication around kind of that common area. So you end up passing on a lot of really talented people. Someone could be an extraordinary quality hire, but instead they're just waiting around for somebody that kind of checks all these boxes, and they have to make this person happy, and they have to make this person happy, and they're just waiting for someone to fall from the sky. It doesn't really work. So the key word is really, again, it's collaboration and it's understanding.
And you said something earlier that I've talked about before on the podcast about hiring the wrong person and what that can do for your team. And, and I've had that experience where I've hired the wrong person, and you're right. I don't care how good your team is, when you hire that wrong person, and it doesn't mean the person can't do the job, it just may mean that he's not the culture fit for your team, then, I saw it destroyed my team. It absolutely destroyed what I had built. It was devastating. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it really is that expression, like one bad apple can spoil the bunch. So
it is so true. And until you experience that as a leader and a manager, And I think I feel like everybody experiences that at some point. Would you agree with that?
I say absolutely, especially if you've been in any type of management capacity or even worked on a team. We've all been in those environments where, you've got that one person who's just like, oh my God, like they really get under your skin, or they really annoy you, or they're the kind of Johnny know-it-all, or they've always got that backhanded response or answer, or they're always trying to one-up you, and you're just like, oh my God, I love my job and I love where I work, but why does this guy have to work here? And the worst part is, I've not been in environments like that. And when you've expressed, I remember a long time ago, we interviewed somebody. I was like, listen, I see where you're going. I see why you like the guy, but I'm telling you right now, it's not a good idea. You shouldn't hire him. And about 2 months into the job, him and I were at each other's throats pretty much constantly. Genuinely didn't like the guy. And finally, I was just like, you know what? I hate to do this, but I'm out of here. Like, I'm not doing this anymore. And I know that your allegiance is to him. So I guess I'm out.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It happens, and it happens more often than I think a lot of people really want to admit.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, have you, and I mean, it's okay if you haven't, but have you done any additions or added any people to your team during the pandemic?
No, not right now.
Okay.
I'm actually just started interviewing now. My biggest thing was making sure that things were going to be stable and thriving, and then we could continue to grow and really be successful in what we do. Mm-hmm. So I didn't want to take any new risks right now. And there's challenges. The remote thing is a challenge. The global impact is definitely a challenge. So I wanted to slow and steady wins the race. Like, let's make sure we're great with what we have. Before I start throwing a bunch of new puzzle pieces into the box here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, but I know that you're still hiring. I'm sure probably for you, just like it's been for us, it's definitely slowed down. It's not, pre-COVID job orders and stuff like that, but we're starting to pick back up. But, let's talk about some of the new challenges that are facing our hiring managers that we're recruiting for. What are some of the challenges of remote hiring, and how are people overcoming them?
I've had a lot of conversations with everything from VPs of HR to CTOs about this so far, and the biggest challenge that I've seen with people is this idea of culture, because what it was versus what it now is completely different. So there's a lot of people that are still caught up in the past, and there's a lot of people that are still waiting for the future to unfold, and so they're not living in the present. So the interesting thing is right now is the cultures of past are really behind us. And we have no idea what the future is going to hold for us moving forward. So if we really want to be successful, we really want to grow, we need to adapt to where we currently are. And
technology.
That's what happens when you have too many devices all connected. They'll find you anywhere. So I apologize about that. But so what I was saying is, it's just this acceptance of kind of where we are right now. And if you can accept that, then you're not trying to solve culture. And I think that's an interesting thing. The challenges, I think a big challenge right now for people is when you're hiring somebody that's going to be in a remote environment, you need to make sure that the people you're hiring are set up to be successful remotely. Now, some are and some aren't. I tell people, listen, what is your desk situation? Where are you working? Do you have a home office? I have a completely separate unit from the house that's a quiet home office that I can be in here. So it's great. Are you working from the dining room table? Are you working on the couch? What's your internet service like? What's your computer setup? Do you have a 2012 legacy laptop, or are you set up from a technology standpoint to be successful? So I think that that's a challenge for a lot of people. Making sure that someone is set up to be successful remotely is going to be critical for them. The other big challenge for people is this idea of not meeting someone. And I think that when you have that energy exchange when you meet somebody. And a lot of times you're going to know off the bat, based on their handshake, based on eye contact, whether or not you kind of like somebody, right? So this idea of really meeting somebody these days is all virtual. So you really need to trust your gut and ask the right questions to make sure that the energy is really is there for you, which obviously is going to be challenging. I think talking about people, if they're working from home, what is their home situation? Depending on where you live, it's are your kids back in school, right? Do they have daycare? Or if they're not in school, what are they doing the days that have virtual classes? Are you in charge of them? Is somebody else in charge of them? Do you have help? So understanding, what their home situation really is that's a challenge for a lot of people, because I've seen a lot of folks and their home situation isn't great to be successful working remotely. And it's like, listen, unfortunately, that's kind of a red flag. But at the end of the day, every hire you're gonna make is a risk anyways. I think the biggest challenge right now for people is a level of trust and understanding that you need to be willing to take on a little bit more of a risk right now, because when someone starts and the onboarding process is completely different. So, your manager's not looking over your shoulder. There's no micromanagement anymore. So there's a lot of that going on right now. So I think the biggest thing is just I've been trying to tell people, like, listen, it's always been a risk to hire someone. It's a little bit more of one right now. You need to trust your gut and you need to believe. And if you like somebody, hire them. If they don't work out, then it happens. But you need to trust them.
Well, and something you said about understanding the home situation, I just, it's okay for recruiters to ask those questions, but I want to just be very cautious with employers who may be interviewing on their own, that you could not ask questions about children and all that kind of stuff prior to hire. You need to make sure that if you're addressing those issues, that it is after the fact, because we don't want any discrimination suits to come up around those areas. But with recruiters, I feel like that's a little bit different, because recruiters have your best interest at heart. And while recruiters can't ask you those questions directly, the more you share with them, the better able they are to go find that right opportunity for you. Now, me as a recruiter, if somebody tells me they have 10 kids, I'm not sharing that with the client. I can't, right?
Yeah.
And
but I happened on the phone with somebody and asked them where they're working. And he was like, well, I'm just, I'm in my bedroom on the bed, and then every now and then I move to the dining room. I'm like, okay, we need to address that before we get you in the thinking process here. So
exactly. And then the other thing you said, which I thought was so true, you were talking about people having to get away from the fact of meeting people in person. And I'll tell you, when pre-COVID, I met all my candidates in person. That was my gold seal of standard. That was my promise to my clients. And so to have to step away from that, because we're still not bringing candidates into the office, right? So we've still got, security protocols in place and social distancing and all that. And to step away from that and to step only into Zoom calls was really, really hard for me.
It's a big challenge. And I know, the in-person communication is huge. And again, it's the energy exchange. What they say is, 80% of communication is nonverbal. Mm-hmm. So, you can do the best you can on a Google Meet or whatever people are doing these days. And it is difficult, but, we got to do the best we can with it. You can't, what are we going to do? We can't. We still have to move forward. We have to grow. We just have to adapt to some different philosophies than what we were used to before in the past.
Absolutely. So pre-COVID, the talent pool was super tight. I know it was in accounting and finance. We had like 1.7% unemployment in accounting and finance nationwide. And I'm sure it was the same in the technology. I'm sure that was a pretty tight industry as well. But now, we're seeing with COVID tons and tons of layoffs, right? And so I think this poses a problem for hiring managers, is because there's so many people looking for employment and they're having to wade through so many resumes. What can they do, what do you think they're looking for to make a quality hire? And I think you wrote something on LinkedIn not too long about this, about what makes a candidate a quality hire, no matter industry or not. Am I correct?
You're absolutely correct. I actually just did it not long ago. I've always found it to be interesting, because I remember last year I was sitting in different conferences about the recruiting industry and about hiring and growing teams. And this big statistic is like 88% of this, the HR staff is saying that the most important thing is just quality of hire. I found it to be interesting because it's the one very arbitrary term. There's no measuring stick for it. It's not about years of experience. It's not about money. It's not about, whatever. And to every person that I've ever spoken to, like even myself, for example, like their version of hire is going to be different than somebody else's. So the hard part about it was like what a quality hire is. And unless you've had a lot of experience in hiring, prior to really knowing about all the little things you're looking for, that makes it really difficult. So if you want to know what a real quality hire is, you need to make sure that you trust the other people around you. Be like, okay, what did you listen to? What did you like? Really get some tips and advice. If you've a lot of teams and you've hired a lot of people before in the past, then you're going to know what you're looking for. I still think it's interesting because of hiring, I still think there's a lot of risk versus reward factor. You don't really know that someone's a quality hire until you actually hire them. And then so they start working and then you're like, wow, like I thought you were going to be good, but
you're not.
Wow.
I've had some of those too.
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting thing. And the things I personally look for a lot of different things, but I know that a lot of the common denominators, it was never really about skill set. I thought that was great. It was about attitude, communication, articulation, and to the candidates you're talking to, they really understand the purpose behind what they're doing. Are they passionate about it, and why do they love it? Because those are the people that I found are really going to go above and beyond the duty when, a problem arises or when it hits the fan or if there's a man, whatever the situation is. Those are people like, oh, you know what? I'll figure this out. I'll work late. I'll figure out a way. Oh, I'm not doing anything this weekend. Let me dive into this type of stuff. Because at the end of the day, I think skills can. So the things you're really looking for are attitude, aptitude, and make sure that the personality can really jive with your team. And if you have those types of things, then I think you're going to be set up for a much better success. The unfortunate things is those types of things really you can't look for on a resume. You just have to look for the right things you're looking for, and then as you start to talk to people, you're going to realize like what you really like and what you don't like, and you got to trust your gut on those things.
One of the things that I look for when I'm interviewing, whether I'm interviewing for a client or I'm interviewing internally, is I'm looking for that passion, just like what you're talking about. And I often will somehow ask a question to get them to talk about something they're passionate about. So I'll look for like a hobby. I'll say, tell me about this. And then I watch to see how they open up and engage me, because especially if I'm hiring internally, because if you can't tell me a story, you're probably not going to be able to tell somebody else's story, which means you're probably not going to engage with them, which means you're not going to sell, right? You're not going to get them on the phone.
Yeah.
So I think passion when you're interviewing about anything is really important. And I think that if you are not passionate for the role that you're applying for, that's probably not the right place for you.
I would agree, because you need to have people that really, I like people that genuinely care about what they're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And I mean, people that are just like the 9-to-5ers. I mean, I'm sure there's a place and time for everybody's out there, just not for me. And I like people that are like, oh, I'll get that done. Oh, give it to me. I'll figure it out. And they like to look at challenges and problems and the way to solve things. So,
but at the same time, if they get their work done and leave early one day, no big deal, because they're going to get it done. Yeah. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and I guess that's probably why Verity has been voted one of the best places to work in New York City, of all places. Congratulations on that. That is amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, that's not a small city. To me, I don't know. Maybe that's not a small feat, right?
No, I had it's always been one of my major goals to be the best company to work for in New York. It's actually fun because the staffing industry, the SIA has another poll that comes out, and we were based on surveys and research, we were the number 3 for our size group, which is the small size. We are the number 3 best staffing company in the country to work for.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, I was supposed to go down into Miami in March to the awards banquet and all that kind of job. Fortunately, COVID came and put a little halt on a couple of things.
Just a few.
But building an environment where people genuinely love their job and feel really appreciated, and it's something I take very, very seriously. So I really, the dedication of the people will yield you a way better environment to work in, and people can hear it and they can see it and they want to be a part of something.
Well, and I would definitely want to get this question in, and I'm not going to have time to ask you all my questions, unfortunately, because we're running out of time. But, I think it's so important that, and I love that you strive for that, but there's a lot of companies, not everybody gets best company to work for in New York City, right? And one of the first things a lot of candidates do, and I face this all the time with clients, is they'll go to Glassdoor and they'll read the reviews, and then they'll be like, I'm not going to interview for that company, right? So what are some things a company can do to kind of protect its brand and to, position themselves to be a great place to work?
I think, first of all, it comes from leadership on its way down. I think leaders really need to understand, first and foremost, what the brand of your company is. And I find that a lot. It's like, what is that whole question, right? Like, how does your company really do?
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you really understand that, then you can start to talk to your team and your people. They're not robots, they're not machines, about what the brand really is. And the people that work for you are then they're gonna have a belief system. So that's, it's the belief, it's the vision, and then as a leadership, you need to make sure that you're sharing that with you, and they need to buy into it. And when they buy into it, they're going to sell it to the people they're talking to, and then you create. That's how in my opinion, a brand really is. It's what is your company really doing? How are you going to excel at it?
One thing I tell people all the time when I'm combating those Glassdoor reviews is that, I've been very happy at the companies I've worked for and never wrote a review. But I guarantee you those people that get fired or leave disgruntled, they write a review. So consider that as you're reading those reviews.
Yeah. I think it's anytime it's volunteered information, I think it's always, you just consider the source.
Yes.
Absolutely. I've been in a lot of restaurants and I have not left 5-star reviews for them. And
but you'll leave that 1 star.
Yeah, I have no problem leaving that 1 star. I'm like, listen, don't need it.
Exactly. But that's fair. I would want to know that. So please keep leaving the 1 stars. There's nothing I can't stand more than a bad restaurant.
Yeah, especially when I got recommended to you.
Yeah. So it's time for us to wrap up, Chris. This went so fast. So I want to ask you our VIP questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, I am.
This is to me, it's all fun, but I really like this because I love to see how people's brains tick. So my first question is, if you were chosen to be one of the first colonists on Mars, what 3 things or people would you take with you?
I'll try to be brief for this one. I thought about 2 things with this. I was like, well, no, there's got the practical answer, which is like, I didn't end the supply of oxygen and food. But I was like, what would I do? So if they're sending me to Mars, I'm going to assume the satellite to my iPhone is going to work. So I'm definitely bringing my iPhone so I can stay connected with everybody, send some really cool pictures, and obviously jam out to Pandora while I'm up there. I would bring a botanist. I don't know who or what, but I got to eat. So I would definitely bring a botanist that could grow me some food. I don't think Grubhub is going to be able to get me sushi while I'm on Mars, so I need somebody. And not to be weird, but I want to bring Elon Musk. I think he's from Mars, so he could probably show me show me some solar power, an endless battery, probably a rocket ship if I got to take off for a little while. So I'll take Elon.
I don't want to burst your bubble, but you're not the first one to take Elon. But you are the first one to claim that he's from there.
You live in the neighborhood, so.
That was great. So what is one thing you do to start your day and set it up for success?
Every day I spend about 10 minutes and I get get myself a state, and I set my purpose for what I really want to accomplish that day and the reason I really want to go after it. So every day I have a purpose and I have a state, and I actually have it written down on my wall in front of me. So I make sure I see it all the time. It kind of keeps me keeps it really motivating, gives me remember really kind of what I'm going for.
So I understand purpose, but tell me a little bit more about state.
So state, it's the way, what I would say is like the way you feel when you're at your peak or when you're at your best. Sometimes when you're like, I'm on top of the world, how do I feel when everything's jiving, everything's moving, and I'm like, everybody I talk to say yes, and you're like, oh my God. So, you come up with all these words and descriptions. When you do is identify basically 3 of them. And those 3 are kind of what I call is or especially what Tony Robbins calls, that's your peak state. And in that state, you can accomplish anything.
And does your state change from day to day?
I'm no different. You're gonna have good days and bad days, but that's the way to start my day, is always making sure that it's the first thing on my mind. And anytime I catch myself kind of breaking away from it, it's very easy for me to train myself on how to get back into that state, to make sure that I don't get sucked into the pit of dismay, if you will.
Catabolic energy. It's not good.
Yeah.
So, okay, final question. This is the one for all the money in the world. Yeah. If your life's work was being summarized in a news article, what would the headline be?
So there's 2 major philosophies that I've always lived by, but if I was going to have my headline, it would be, don't ask why, ask why not.
Ooh.
I've seen a lot of times, I'm one of those people who's like, well, why not? Why not, try that restaurant? Why not call that person? Why not walk up to the stranger at the bar? Why not take a risk? Why not? What do you get to lose? What's the worst that's really going to happen? So I think there's a lot of people out there that, live with in that fear of why. I'm more of a why not type of person.
Oh, I think you just changed my perspective. I'm a why not. I'm joining team why not. Wife and why not. Well, Chris, this has been so enlightening. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today and letting us know what it takes to be voted the best company to work for in New York City. How do people find you?
So our website is a Verity Team, and it's AVERITY, team.com. I am all over LinkedIn, so pretty easy to find and very approachable. So if anybody wants to reach out to me, feel free to ping me a post on LinkedIn. I'm one of those people, I leave my contact information kind of right on there, so I'm not too hard to find.
You're a true recruiter if you've got your contact information there right splattered all over the headlines of LinkedIn.
Yeah, sometimes you're happy about it, sometimes you're not. But again, why not? Put it out there, and the right people will pick it up.
That's right. That's right. Well, this has been absolutely fantastic, Chris. And I just have one more thing to say to you. Yeah. You are a VIP.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it.
And that's a wrap for today. Join us next week here on the We Are VIP podcast. We'd love to know how we can help you be a VIP. To find out more, log on to wearevip.com.